Redefining Girlboss. I'm not sure if I've really redefined things, but let's see. I'll share what I've done so far. I've got a presentation, so hopefully you can hear me well and you can see what I'm sharing. So yeah, my name is Amy. My last name is Zheng, and it's not a very typical Malaysian surname because I'm not Malaysian. I was actually born in Shanghai. I grew up in Melbourne, Australia, so family's in Melbourne. And I've been in Malaysia for nearly 10 years. So in about next year, early next year would be celebrating my 10 years time in Malaysia. I guess I have a lot of different interests and identities and different things I've done. I was a yoga teacher. I'm still a very big yoga enthusiast. I was a management consultant with the Boston Consulting Group. I was a social worker with NGOs in India. I was a social worker in Australia with the Salvation Army. I've also been a consultant for the World Bank on criminal justice reform, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of cool stuff I've done in the past, and I've traveled a lot. I've worked in a lot of countries, and I've ended up here so far in Malaysia after my stint as a consultant to now running a healthy snacks business, making granola, nut mixes, nut butter, peanut butter, and it's been really a crazy career. If you asked me 5 years ago, would I imagine myself doing this? I would say definitely not. But yeah, so maybe I'll go through some of that journey with you as well. Yeah, so actually it's been about 5 years now, but yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, I left the corporate world. So as you can see, I was very enthusiastic, super young, very idealistic as well about the corporate life. I thought, it was going to be awesome as a consultant. I left because I felt that I didn't want to sell my time for things that I feel like I didn't have a lot of impact on. And I felt like I was working really hard for causes that I wasn't willing to throw my whole weight against. And I think the other thing that I noticed was that I really liked organizations. I really liked people. I really believe that at the end of the day, every organization depends on its people. And so if you had great people, everything's going to work. If you didn't, even the best strategy in the world isn't going to help you get there. So that was something that was very convicting for me, and I realized that I wanted to build an organization that I believed in, that had cultural values and way of working that was very different from big corporate, and that can help people to have better lives and more meaningful lives when they go to work. So yeah, so I think that's what made me leave corporate life. There's me in Bali, very cliche, learning how to be a yoga teacher. So that was a really big change. Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to work on, a problem that I wanted to solve, was to tackle the issue of food. And I think a lot of people have issues with food. We love and we hate food. We love how amazing food is in Malaysia, in Asia, but at the same time, we also know that you are what you eat, and so if you eat richly every day, you're going to have problems. On the other hand, I've seen that the healthier options are quite boring. They usually come from the West. I think I grew up eating Wheat Bix, and it wasn't the most inspiring breakfast. And so so I really felt that I wanted to come up with a solution for food that helped people eat healthier, made them more energetic, allowed them to focus better and feel better about themselves, but at the same time, do it in a way that was delightful, that was joyful, that was fun, and not punitive. Great. So yeah, there's me. That was me 5 years ago, making our first trail mix, our first nut mix. We had to make in big batches, but we didn't have machines. So we were baking ourselves. I got really good arms, really strong arms during this period as well. And it was really fun. I really believe that when you start your own business, you want to know how each part of the business works. You really want to try out every part so that when you're hiring people and you're building a team for it, you know exactly what to do and who to look for, and you can guide others in doing it. Yeah, that's our philosophy. We're about creating products that people love, not just the ingredients, but also the taste, the texture, and design. I think it took us a long time to come up with these designs, but we always believe that we need to be excellent, not just the food we make, but also the way that the food is presented. And so when somebody picks up a packet of Amazin Graze products, they're going to feel delighted. They're really interested. They're intrigued, and they feel really good when eating it. So that was one of our main goals. The team has really grown. I'm really proud to say that we've grown from 3 people, in the very beginning in 2015. There's myself, there's Sabrina, there's Ching. These were the 3 female founders of business, and we came together through mutual friends to come up with the idea to bake, to build our first kitchen, and extend the business. In 2018, I think we had about 40 plus people across 3 offices, two in Malaysia and 1 in Singapore. And this time, in November of 2020, we're already at 150 plus people across 5 different offices. The company has been growing 200% year on year. And I think that's just been really amazing, because normally companies grow, or more established companies grow at most 5% a year, and 10% is really, really good. And so to have a company that grows 200% a year is very challenging, is quite an achievement to make. And to keep that momentum going is something that I'm really, is one of my top priorities, and it's something that excites everybody. So it's a very different company. Everything changes every few months. The company changes every few months. We're always hiring. There's always new faces. Things break very easily because we're trying to grow fast. And so what used to work 3 months ago no longer works, and we have to change the way we do things all over again. So it's a constant flux of change. It's a constant flux of new things, and people who love that kind of environment, love that. People who really don't like change this fast, I think they can find it quite difficult. So yeah, it's definitely a particular, very specific environment. It doesn't work for everybody, but for those that it works well with, it's very rewarding. Great. So on the topic of being a woman in a corporate life, I think I reflected on some of the issues that I faced in my previous corporate life. So one is, most leadership, as you can see, especially if you're working professional, or you've been in the working life, you've noticed that the board meetings are full of men. A lot of higher management for men. Yes, new entrants to the job market are quite equal. If you look at college, if you look at new recruits, actually there's a lot of women, and equal number of talented men and women going to the workplace. But as you rise up, as you in every field, even the field that you think should be more women, like restaurants and everything, the highest ranking people in these industries are often men. And so in what I've experienced, at least, I felt like because there were so many men, especially middle-aged men, I see a lot of ego, a lot of people wanting to be heard and have their agendas be implemented. It tends to be more hierarchical. Then it seems to be more of a gentleman's club that as a woman, you feel like it's very, very hard to penetrate. You definitely see the glass ceiling very clearly. And the second thing I've noticed in my previous corporate life was that women can't seem to find the sweet spot, meaning women can come across as being, if you reflect on your female bosses, it could be like, oh, they're really aggressive if they come across too strong, right? If they're really outspoken, if they're driving things, and if they're working really hard, they tend to come across, or we perceive them as being aggressive and even really bossy, and just the same. If a guy was like that, if a guy was very outspoken and worked really hard and was getting stuff done and it was all over the place, like you can hear them and driving things forward, you would go, oh wow, he's a good leader, he's really charismatic. So I think women just don't get the same yardstick. And if you're too soft, if you're perceived as like, oh, really quiet and really meek, you seem to be a pushover, right? And so I don't think women have really found the right sweet spot, I guess. It's just the perception, the stereotypes is still against women leaders. And yeah, so that's something I've also faced. And the third thing I've noticed in my corporate life is lack of role models. One is we've all seen really capable women having to walk away from their careers because of kids, if both people work in a relationship and there's kids or there's demands of the domestic life, it's usually the woman that has to leave or take a back step in order to help the family and ensure that the family unit stays strong. And I've also seen moms, women that are already moms become, they work really hard to retain their careers, but that means they don't get to see their kids very much, and so they're seen as workaholic and they feel guilty, and people tend to like put them down, like make them feel like they're not doing enough, they're not doing a good enough job because they're working and a lot and not being there for their family. And I think that's also compounded by the fact that not enough men are taking the alternative step of being caretakers, taking the educator's role at home, so as to allow the female person in the house to take on the careers. So I definitely seen that changing, and I think it is slowly changing. I've seen some men take a more domestic role so that the female can be more outward based, but it really isn't very common at the moment. So these are some of the issues I've seen. I want to preface this talk by saying I don't think the problem is like extremely bad, like being a female entrepreneur or a female CEO or a female manager in Malaysia and Singapore. At least I haven't found it to be quite as terrible. So I think it's a great place to be a female entrepreneur in Malaysia today. And I say this because the world has changed. We've come a long way. Generally, there's a lot of support for female entrepreneurs. I think that the society has realized, oh my gosh, this is not easy, and let's support this minority group. Let's help them succeed. And so, coming to my point number 2, you actually get a lot more attention as a female entrepreneur, right? The media gives you more attention, your customers are more supportive, so generally I felt more support. People give me, people tend to help me more in the regard, and I get a lot more limelight compared to maybe a male entrepreneur who's, because there's so many of them, maybe they don't get as much attention and help and support in that sense. So I actually think there's a lot of good things that comes out of this. And third thing is the thing I love is I get to empower a lot more females in my role, and just by doing this, right? So I think it's a powerful message for other men and women to see more females doing this. Most of my senior leadership today are women. It's not that I actively go and recruit for women, but it's just that the industry that we're in, which is health and wellness, and it's a consumer-based product, which most women are more affiliated to, it tends to attract more females, right? Because it's like-minded thinking. You tend to be really passionate about something that you can easily relate to. And I absolutely love that. And I see that they are taking the opportunity to grow their careers, to to be groomed to become the future leaders. There's definitely no glass ceiling at Amazin Graze, and they can see me and Sabrina, my co-founder, and Ching doing amazing things. So yeah, I think that's been something that I felt personally really rewarded by. And we're definitely looking to diversify as we go ahead with not just gender. I think gender is a diversity, but also race, also age. There's so many different factors of diversity that we need in the organization for our organization to be great. But yeah, so I just want to preface this talk by saying it's been great. I've really enjoyed being a female entrepreneur, and I think the society has helped a lot. So it's a great time to do this. I took the opportunity to also think about some notable female entrepreneurs in Malaysia, and there's been so many, which again is a testament to the fact that there's been a lot of support and a lot more women are doing this. So one of my best friends is Francesca Chia, and she has she's the CEO of Go Get, and she's been leading the way for other people as well in this field. Christy N, who has a brand called Christy N. She's been, a very influential person in my life and has helped me and mentored me in my business as well. Jen Low from Wonderlust, Mac Chong Ling, who was a CEO of Nando's and was doing, building Nando's in Malaysia for the last 20 plus years. Of course, everyone is Vivi Yusof from Fashion LA. I want to give a plug to Sabrina Howe, who's my COO at Amazin Graze, and she's not very public, but she is absolutely an amazing female entrepreneur. Tan Hoi Ling from Grab, who started Grab with Anthony Lowe. I think Anthony Tan. Not a lot of people know about her, but she was absolutely in the founding team that made Grab possible. Ching Go from PictoCart. I want to mention her because PictoCart is a tech company, and so you don't find a lot of females in technology companies, and there's definitely been upcoming female leaders in that field, which is exciting. And then there's a lot of females like Jasmine Tan from Abercrombie and Fish, Penny Chu from Bloomvis, who are in husband and wife teams or couple teams, and they've played a huge role in growing their companies from scratch. And there's been so many more. There's too many to name. And I encourage you to do your own research. And I think there's different styles as well. I think there's no one style that fits all. You've got some leaders and founders that are more quiet and meek. They work behind the scenes. They don't go out and seek public attention. There's leaders that are seen as really tough bosses, but go-getters out there who are kind of changing the industry, and they're seen as trailblazers, and they're really tough, and people who work with them, they find that they have to meet really high standards, but at the same time they learn a lot. There are socialite founders, female founders, who are really good with media, really good with promoting their public image, which is a very commendable trait. So you get every style. There's a lot of different styles of female entrepreneurs out there as well. So I just want to, highlight some for you here, and hope you can actually meet them or do some research on them and learn from them. There are, of course, a lot of challenges of being a female entrepreneur, and I want to share some from my own personal experience. One is there's no playbook to adhere to. I think we are probably the first proud generation of made local businesses from Asia. I don't see a lot of role models in this field. It's generally been men that's started their businesses in the previous generation, and so I sometimes feel like I'm groping in the dark. I don't really know where I'm going. I get advice from so many different perspectives, but to choose and follow the right course of action that suits you is not very obvious, I think, to say the least. I do think some people may not take you very seriously. And I think that still happens today. Like, I have friends or friends of friends who probably think I'm running, especially when I first started, that think Amazing Grace is my lifestyle business. And I get a little bit offended when people say that, because, they tend to, oh, she's a girl, she's working on her passion project, it's a pet project, she'll get a real job later, or she'll become a mother later. It's not that serious. Versus if, it's a guy that's running a technology business, maybe people take him really seriously. Oh my gosh, they're going to be, they're going to get big. It's going to be really profitable. They're going to make it. They're going to make it in life, Whereas I don't think anyone thinks I'm going to make it by saying I'm running a granola company or a healthy snacks company. People are like, oh yeah, that's cute. Do just bake at home and sell at the weekend market. But little do they know we have really big ambitions. Yes, we started off in our home kitchen because we think that was a great way to test the market while not spending tons of money. But from the very first day, we were very ambitious and we wanted to create a global brand. And so I think very few people took us seriously when we started. I don't think anyone's told me that face to face, but I can feel that some team members may not take you very seriously. So sometimes I've had incidences where I've given feedback to team members who probably haven't worked a lot with female bosses, and they tend to maybe respect you less and take your feedback with less seriousness. And then they may just flip and go, oh, who are you to tell me what to do, right? So, luckily I haven't encountered this a lot, but I think it has happened, and it can happen for females who choose to not be very aggressive in giving feedback. Like, hey, I really don't want to be a dragon lady and breathing down people's necks and being, 5 times more aggressive than I need to just because I want to show who's boss. I don't believe in that kind of leadership. I want to be myself. I want to take the way that is the most effective without being aggressive or mean, just to get my message across. And I don't feel like that is being soft either. I think that is really, true leadership is not having to get people to do things, motivate by fear, right? True leadership is to motivate by inspiring people. The fourth challenge I've encountered is that it can be hard to get capital. So I think there is so many biases, unconscious biases in our minds. And I don't think people really mean it. I don't think people consciously see you and go, oh, you're a girl, not going to fund you, not going to give you money. But it's at the back of people's mind, and it's because they're all doing risk assessments, and your risk assessment of someone's lendability or someone's attractability as a business to invest in comes from, in part, your unconscious biasness, right? If you haven't seen that many female, successful female entrepreneurs and founders and CEOs that have made it, but you've seen a lot more men that have done this, in your calculation, your mental calculation about whether to lend money to this person, whether if you're a bank or whether you are an investor, I do think it is harder to get funding as a female. It's harder to get capital. And that's why, you've got some crazy, horrendous statistics of something like only 2% of all VC funding in the US, for example, goes to female founders. 2%, right? Which means 98% of the billions of dollars that are used to fund startups and businesses have gone to men. Right? And I'm sure there are more than 2% female founders in all the founders in Silicon Valley. So, and without capital, we all know that it's going to be much harder for you to grow. You're going to find it difficult to recruit good people, to take a risk, and that also can lead to high failure rates of the business. And I made a note there in my presentation, we are still bootstrapping. We've had angel investors who came to us, and they are females, so that's been really amazing. They called us up and said, we really like your products, how can we help? But we we're still using our own money. We really had to be very careful with how we spend money and make sure the business becomes sustainable on its own, right? Rather than trying to fundraise a lot out there. And I think fifth one is not a lot of people talk about it maybe, or it's like hush hush, but the reality is there's a biological clock for females and men, but especially for females. And I think our biological clock hasn't caught up with our mental and social development, meaning, I think a lot more women today want to spend their 20s and 30s working on their career or exploring themselves or seeing the world. And unfortunately, having kids is a big trade-off. I'm not a believer that you can have it all. I'm not a believer that you can be breastfeeding your kids or two kids and be there for them and your partner, and be running a company with 100 or 200 people and be expanding the business globally altogether. I just think that's I can't do it, and the very few people who can do it probably don't sleep. So yeah, I think it's a real issue that women today who want to take time for themselves to explore, have an issue with the fact that their biological clock doesn't want to wait for them to do all that. And so of course there's women can freeze their eggs and everything like that, but it's just not that great of an option. It's just not very fun to go. It's not easy, right? It's expensive, it's not easy, it's painful, and there's no guarantee that even if you freeze your eggs that you can have kids later. So I think and also your partner, right? And I think females who tend to be very ambitious tend to have also ambitious partners sometimes more likely than not. And then it comes to who's going to take a back step, or how is it going to work with both people being, ambitious and traveling and being global. And so these are very real questions that I think affect people, and I think affect female founders. And I think we should just talk about it. It shouldn't be a secret. So some of my strategies to build resilience, to counter some of the challenges is, I think one is we are our worst enemies, our worst nemesis. A lot of things is mental. So I would encourage everyone to not think that the glass ceiling is higher than it really is, and not not let the concept and the social phenomenon have more power than it should. So I think, things have improved a lot. I think, yes, there are still obstacles, but I haven't found being a female to be a hindrance to starting a business and to growing your business. And really, I think, when I go to a lot of talks on this topic, I think we can be a bit more resilient in our own mental mindset, to not shoot yourself down, to not think there are more obstacles out there than perhaps there is. And sometimes, you gotta just go for it without being a little bit ignorant or turn your blinders on to maybe some prejudice out there and just go, right? Because every one of us who do this is gonna make it easier for the next person. 2 is find the right partners. And I mean partners in all different elements, in the sense your business partner, I always advise, at least my experience is I couldn't have done it without my business partners. No way. Absolutely no way. And I think finding the right partners who are supportive of each other, whether it's male or female, doesn't matter, but someone who can understand you, who can give you advice on when to rest and when to go and not to take yourself too seriously. And so you can tag team, sometimes you need to take a step back from the business so your business partner can take a step up, and vice versa. And your life partner is very important. I think I probably couldn't do what I'm doing right now if my partner didn't encourage me, didn't think I could do it, didn't also personally sacrifice his some of his time and some of what he's doing to so that I can bootstrap my business, in my business, and time and dedication to do what I do. So choose your partners wisely and make sure that they can support you for some of the toughest time of your life and the most rewarding time. The third thing is build the best team. I think find like-minded people who are passionate, who are excited about the mission and pushing boundaries, who's seeing what you're doing and personally resonating with what you're doing. And in return, you need to mentor them. You need to make them the future leaders. And I think nothing can get you down. If you have a really tight-knit, strong team who are carrying the future of the business on their shoulders, nothing can get you down. Fourth is know your values. So I think it's really important to know from the very beginning what you stand for, what the business stands for, and put them down on paper, talk to people about it. Every new hire that comes through your door, make sure they know the company values, they know your values as a person. And I think that's important because when you need to make some tough decisions, and every business has to make tough decisions, every person has to make tough decisions for their life, you can fall back on the values that you think are important to help you, to guide you. And I think we've all been through times when you are so caught up in the moment, you're pretty stressed, the demands of business, of life has really gotten to you, and you don't know what to do. You want to cut corners, you want to do the things that's easiest, you want to minimize the cost of the decisions that you want to make. But if you have strong values, the values are very public, people will hold you accountable and said, hey, you wanted to make quality products, right? Or you wanted to be excellent in everything you do, or you wanted to be honest in all your business ordeals and as a person. Where is that? Can you be honest here? Can you make the best decision to improve quality, to prioritize quality? So I think when you do face challenges, whether it's because society has all these barriers or anything, if you have your constitution, to guide you, I think it will just make things a lot easier for you. And fifthly is this came up more and more recently, is that you need to take time to care for yourself. Take care of your physical needs, take care of your mental health, and have a healthy distance between you and the company, because you are more than the company. You're more than your identity as a founder, as an entrepreneur. You have passions and hobbies and goals that surpasses all of that. And so I think it's important to keep perspective, to keep that in check, and so you don't let things affect you that much, right? And I remember I always tell myself, or try to tell myself, I am not Amazin Graze. I may be someone who's guiding the company or helping to grow the company right now, but the company is separate. It has a life on its own. And that sometimes gives me the perspectives to not take things too personally and seriously. And if things don't go well all the time, it's okay. You have tomorrow. You can start again. It's, you're not the company. You're much more than that. And it helps you to kind of continue your journey to learn and your journey to improve yourself in the long run. So take time for yourself. If you've been working really crazily with no work-life balance, I would advise to step back and focus on you, because if you're happy and you're rested and you're effective, you're gonna help everyone else. You're gonna help your team. You're gonna help the company. Great. So I won't go through this in a lot of details because we're going to Q&A soon. But I want to share some of Amazin Graze values with you so you can see how we do this. So some of our values are, we're purpose driven. So everybody who comes with us hopefully has a purpose. They want to change something about the world. They know the why of what they're doing and not just doing for the sake of doing things. Our second value is be a serial entrepreneur. So that's a bit of a playing pun, a bit of pun in the words, because we make cereals. I think we want people to come and take ownership for their own destiny. They're creating something on their own. They're creative. They don't take the status quo as given. They're constantly innovating and hustling and being a business owner themselves. The third value we have is punch above our weight. So we take it very seriously that as a new generation of a consumer brand, we have responsibility to make something great, right? We have responsibility to our society and to our community to make something that people can be proud of, that people, our friends and family can be proud of. And so we want to be excellent in everything that we do. Other values is working with great people. So, hiring the best talents and giving them freedom to do what they need to do, taking the courage to communicate openly, no grudges, no politicking, say what you want to, say what you think, upholding integrity, so transparency, honesty, even if that was a tough decision to do all that, keeping our word, and working towards the long term. So never do things to optimize for short-term results, but think about the long-termness of the company and doing things right from the beginning. So these are some of our values, and these are some of the things that guide us. And I think again, I can't emphasize that enough. When things are tough, I can go back to this list. I can ask my team to go back to this list, and somebody can hold me accountable by saying, "Hey, you said we uphold integrity. Where is that in this decision?" Great. So I think, I've spoken a lot. I hope I haven't bored you. And I really want to hear from you and your questions, and hopefully I can, we can have a dialogue and conversation.
All right. What an amazing session. Thank you so much, Amy, for sharing. We're now about to open up the floor to any questions that you guys might have. All right, so would you like me to read out your questions? If you're feeling bold, you could just say it with your mics. All right, thanks.
Anyone with any questions? You better check out whether anyone's written anything, because sometimes people like to write.
Hello, hi.
Hi, Leah.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your session. I really enjoyed learning about how you actually started up Amazin Graze. I'm a fan, actually. Like I buy your products and stuff. Yeah. I actually wanted to ask how difficult was it for you to take that leap into starting this? Because I'm similarly in corporate as well, but I was just wondering how you managed to find it in yourself to leave something that is really stable, gives you a stable paycheck every month, to do something that is of your own.
Absolutely. So there's two sides, two parts of this answer. The first part of the answer is, not everybody can do it because of constraints, right? Some people have financial constraints. If something fails, they can't afford to do that. So I do think if you can do it, it's a privilege. And I'm under no pretense that anyone who just wants to start their business can do it. Even if they have like mortgages to pay, they have family to look after, and no one else is making income in their family. So yeah, so I do think it's a privileged thing to do, to find found your own company and start a new business. having said that, if you can afford to do it, meaning maybe your partner is okay to work for a while and support the both of you. If both of you are okay with reducing your spending, hey, save up a bit. We don't need to eat out all the time. And if you have some savings and whatnot, I absolutely think it's something that people should consider. How I made the decision was I saved up for 4 years. I had some savings, and I checked myself in. I said, okay, maybe I shouldn't spend as much as I used to. And the other thing that really made me do the switch was that feeling at the end of every year on the 31st of December, I felt empty. I felt like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm a corporate zombie. I go to the company, and I do, I like being there because I get to see my friends. But at the end of the year, because you have a reckoning, right? It's a very, it's either on your birthday or at the end of the year. Not everyone's very happy on that day, right? You kind of go, oh, what have I done this year, and what impact have I created? Am I really happy with what I'm doing? And I felt that empty feeling at the end of every year, and I promised myself every year I don't want to feel that on the 31st of December. So it was really a moment to say, what's the worst that can happen if I try this and fail? So and I think that's a really good question. And I ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, the worst thing that can happen is I fail, I lose some savings, and I go back to my old job or a similar job.
Sorry, just to add on that. So did you ever give yourself like a timeline as to how long you would give yourself to, let's say, make it until you decide that, okay, probably not at this point in time, I will just go back into being that corporate zombie, as you mentioned?
Yeah. I never gave myself that timeline. I think it's important for certain founders to have this grit, to have this, you know what, I'm going to try to make it work as long as I can. There isn't a 12-month mark. There's no 24-month mark, right? I think it's really I had the mentality, which is as long as I can make it to the next month, I'm going to continue. Does that make sense? Because if you set yourself a 12-month mark and things get very difficult, and things will get very difficult in the first few years, you're going to be like, oh, I told myself 12 months. It's not that great right now. I should fail. I should leave it. So I don't advise on having that date, but you will know when you cannot go on any longer, right? And there's a lot of ways, one is people aren't that excited about the product or the service. And you don't see sales growing very fast. So there's a right reason to stop, and there's a wrong reason to stop. The right reason is like the product fit is not there. You need to go back and you need to try new things. You need to revamp your model. The right reason to quit is, that, your family situation can't sustain this anymore. So there's a right reason to quit. The wrong reason to quit, I think, is if you have a good product, if people are like, hey, this is exciting, you can improve on the product, but I can see this growing. But you just didn't have the capital, or you just couldn't find the right team, then I would say it's time to try. Don't give up. Just keep going. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you fail, it's okay, and that's okay, because you're just gonna go back to your old job. And if that's the worst thing that can happen, you're already in the worst thing. You know what I mean? So I that realization just hit me so hard. I'm like, hey, I'm already in the worst case scenario. I'm working in a corporate job I don't like, So it's okay. If you try, it doesn't work, you're just going to go back to what you were doing. But you never will do that. I guarantee you, even if you fail, you're going to become a changed person. And the thing that you pick after that will not be what you were doing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Amy.
Hi. What's your name?
Yeah, I'm Amelia here.
Hi, Amelia. Hi. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I find it's very motivating when you mention about it's okay to fail. I mean, what else you lose, right? You'll be able to going back to the 9 to 5 job. And I also agree about the like at the end of the year, by 31st, you feel empty. In fact, I do feel the same right now. So therefore, I join this sprout session just to look out for some inspiration and ideas and those approaches by the speakers on how to start a startup. So which I find it quite interesting that on your profile you're not from the F&B background, but it seems like you cross industry and founded a company so successful in producing healthy snacks. So I just wonder, maybe Amy, can you share with me some insights on, how do you start it by looking the right mentor, especially?
Yes. So I think one good thing about not coming from the industry that you're working on, like I didn't have food or manufacturing, or I barely cooked. I could barely cook. I think then you don't have a playbook, which I think is a blessing sometimes in disguise. Because if you had the playbook, you may not do it. You'd be like, oh, it's so difficult. If I had worked for Nestle or Kellogg's or Mommy or something like that, I would think there's a lot of obstacles to starting the business. You're competing with some of the biggest giants in the industry. But because I didn't have any of that background or knowledge, I just start small, one step in the way, and no one told me I can't do something. And then later I look back, I'm like, oh, that was interesting. Normal FMCGs don't do this. They don't do so many products in the beginning, or they don't do every part of the supply chain. Like, because we were manufacturing ourselves, and then we did R&D. R&D just means, trying out new things in the kitchen, by the way.
Yes.
R&D, in the lab. We did our own procurement. So we basically went to Bake with Yen and did our own shopping. Then we did our own packaging. Basically, it was just me packing the products. Then we did our own distribution. We didn't know there were distributors out there, which meant I went to the supermarkets and I said, please take my products. And they will say no for the longest time, and eventually they said yes. And that just meant you build up so much of your business from the ground up, and you then amass a lot. You build a very strong foundations, at least for us, right? Because if we knew how to do things, we'd be like, just get a distributor, so much easier, right? that just means also that we couldn't come up with new products all the time, because distributors are very conservative and they only take 1 or 2 products they think will win, and they don't want to take a gamble. So from our perspective, because we did our own distribution, we could bring in whatever products into the market and we test. It was such a blessing. And maybe later we can outsource that. But having done all of that with no knowledge of how to do food was very empowering. So I actually think it's not a bad thing to have to not come from the industry that you eventually want to create a business in. But of course, like you said, mentorship is very important. And I think being a girl, people can't say no.
Oh, okay.
Like, please help me. I don't know how to do this. And people be like, oh, sure.
All right. I think that is quite helpful tips, because currently I'm actually on earlier starting step to find the right mentor for because actually I'm looking into the tech industry, because due to the current trend is towards the industry 4.0, especially in Malaysia. The government started already pushing the attention to this industry. So I kind of find it very inspirational about your talk today.
Yeah, and so many more female tech leaders,
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you very much, Amy.
You're welcome. Yeah, feel free to reach out. Happy to talk. Happy to offer mentorship for anyone who may find it useful. Yeah.
Oh, good to hear that, Amy. Maybe we could connect through LinkedIn.
yes. Very. I definitely would love to connect. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amelia.
All right.
Hello?
All right. What an amazing session. I'm not sure about you, but I really enjoyed my time. Amy answered a lot of great questions, and we managed to finish perfectly on time. So sorry if there was a mic issue or you could hear certain noises. All right, that's it. Thanks again, Amy, for your time today. You can all leave the meeting now. To our attendees, we'll be ending this breakout room, which will be bring back into the main living room. To those who have joined only for the elective session for today, thanks so much again for being with us. And just before we remove you, if you have any further questions, please redirect it to Bawatana, and we'll redirect it to Amy. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will remove you all shortly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day.